My name's Ian McDonald. I've been asked to share some of my experience of suffering with COVID and a little bit about myself. I was Mayor of Kingston in 2010. Prior to that, I've been a councillor in Kingston for about 15 years. I've lived in the borough since about 1967. My background's an engineer. I kind of work in the science, engineering, interfaces, new technology. And my hobbies were cycling, aikido, swimming. I used to swim once a week, cycle around Richmond Park once a week, and I used to do a session of aikido once a week. So I wasn't the fittest person at the age of 62, but you know, I was reasonably fit, fitter than many. And then one day, just come back from holiday, had a few weeks settling down. My wife works at Kingston College in the library, and we'd all been isolating in our household in different rooms. But unfortunately, my wife caught COVID at work, probably they believe from students, and that meant that the whole family eventually got infected. Now, I'm the only man in my household, and all the ladies all just basically, it was very bad flu. I mean, it was sort of Superman flu, if you like, but they coped. As for me, the story was very, very different. The key thing was that my temperature started rising. I had to be in bed. It was getting hotter and hotter, and my wife had to phone for an ambulance. Ambulance crew said that it was the hottest temperature they'd seen that day. And I just remember being carted off downstairs and bundled into an ambulance. And it's just that feeling as you're driving off that it's the last time you're going to see your house. The next thing is you arrive at hospital, and I'm really, really grateful for the staff at Kingston Hospital. You know, they were marvellous. But you eventually go unconscious. And at that point, things started getting a little bit different. All I remember is I just had lots of hallucinations. So if you, I was a kid, I was fencing, you know, with aikido, you're playing with bokkens, which is like a kind of a wooden Japanese sword. And all I remember is just being, it's a bit like a replay of the Greek film, The 300, except I was there all by myself. And it's just exhausting because you're just fighting person after person. There's just this voice saying, you've got to fight now or you just die. And then there was just one big bright white light. And it seemed to be coming around later. And first thing you see is a doctor saying, yeah, how are you? What are you feeling? You know, who are you? And of course, with all the drugs, you're hallucinating in any case. And I later discovered that they were talking to my eldest daughter, and they were telling her about all the hallucinations I was having and things I thought were happening. And they go, no, that's not true. No, that's not true. My daughter would say, that's a load of rubbish. And then they said, and do you believe it? He really thinks that once upon a time he was the mayor of Kingston. I said, no, that's actually true. But apparently my heart stopped during that time, and they had to resuscitate me. And then, of course, because you're going through all these hallucinations, you're waking up, and like, I mean, the doctor told me that people are thinking they're going through World War I, World War II. It's a very common thing when you're under, and it just feels so real. And there's all sorts of psychological support you need to have afterwards. It's a bit like battle fatigue. But then what happened was that you kind of feel as if you're in danger, and that's a very common feeling as well when you're coming around. And you're in one of these hospital cots with all the arms up at the side, and you're not supposed to be able to get out. Well, you don't say that to an engineer or a physicist. I got out. The only problem is that you don't realise, as far as you're concerned, you've been unconscious for a day. I was unconscious for a couple of months, and all your muscles have gone. And I mean, even now, towards the end of the year, there's no muscle there at all in my hand. I'm waiting for some nerves to grow up, because the other things, lying still, you get your nerves sometimes become severed. And of course, at the moment, I can't drive. I'm not even allowed to ride a push bike, which is another after effect. And so, you come round, and you feel afraid. And when I got out of bed, I just collapsed on the floor, because I was in a room by myself, and I had to wait for somebody to come round and find me and winch me back into bed. Long-term effects, obviously, you feel you're tired. Even having recovered, I need that kind of 1 hour afternoon nap, or I need to go for a walk or sit down or something. I can't really work 20 hours a day or whatever, which is kind of things what I sometimes used to do. Work is difficult because I used to be an IT contractor who specialised in testing. I was told I was one of the top, well, let's call it top 100. They used to use a smaller number than that. But these days, having had COVID, if anybody calls you up and asks you, well, what have you been doing for the last year? And you say, well, I've just been recovering from COVID. They don't want to give you a contract. They come, oh, we'll come back in another 6 months or whatever. And that obviously then hits your income. So that's another thing which is a problem. And then you've got the other issues is that you're on lots of drugs. So I'm on blood thinners. That means I can't bump my head, because otherwise I have to go immediately for a hospital scan. And that's not much good if you want to do martial arts, because you do a lot of tumbling and things like that. So that's a bit of a pain. And if I don't do that, because during COVID, I ended up with thrombosis, which is where blood can collect in your heart, and that can lead to a clot, which then can lead to stroke. I've got to take these blood thinners. And of course, the blood thinners kind of make me feel a bit tired. So that's another after effect that nobody ever tells you about. The muscle wastage, because, all my muscles now are a bit flimsy. I'm waiting for nerves to grow up the arm, as I said before, because that then connects to the muscles, and they regrow about 1 millimetre a day. Well, this hand I can do that with, okay, which is my right hand. My left hand, I can't do that at all, which is terrible, because I used to play guitar, and of course that's the arm that works the fretboard, and I can't spread my fingers out. In fact, my little finger's still a little bit crooked, it's not quite going, which is, I'm okay for typing. I can do reports. I've even started doing a master's degree, but you can't do the same amount of things as you used to be able to do. Before, my wife used to come to me with a jar and say, hey, can you open this, please? Now I'm going with just a packet of, ketchup, little ones which you can tear, and say, can you open that for me, please? So it's role reversal. Building your legs when you get back. I used to walk up and down the driveway, just trying to build up strength. When you're in hospital, you've woken up, but it would take 3 nurses to get me off the loo. If you've got any sense of pride, that's gone. While I was in bed, obviously it takes you several weeks to recover. So even when you've woken up, you get wheeled into a ward, and you can be in hospital for several weeks, and it feels as if you're never going to get there. And my eldest daughter was due to get married, and I remember thinking, like, I am going to my eldest daughter's wedding. I am not going to miss this. If you want to keep me in it, I'm climbing out the window if need be, tie the sheets together, and I'll get out that way. And but of course, it's one thing thinking that, it's another thing if you can't even walk across the room. So I was talking to the doctor, and I said, look, can somebody put me in a wheelchair and take me to the wedding? And he says, no, you've got to stay here. Eventually my daughter rescheduled the wedding literally for me. And of course, we were then into various periods of lockdown, and it had to be postponed yet again. And eventually, she got married. It was a registry office service by then, and there was only 6 people there. But she wanted her dad there, and I wanted to be there, and this was nearly something that didn't happen. And to actually think that there was a point where I was expected to die. The staff had brought my wife into the hospital to almost say goodbye, and apparently she sang "Bridge Over Troubled Waters," and apparently there was not. The doctor told me, or it was the physiotherapist, I can't remember, said to me there wasn't a dry eye in the house. But these things you kind of don't remember, but you certainly don't forget that you've gone through a really horrid year. And my heart just goes out to all those people who have lost somebody this year, and those people who are equally, use the word, suffering or still recovering, because it is a long road. Coming up to Christmas and moving into the new year, do be careful. I caught the virus from my wife, who caught it from students, who probably passed it on to other people. Do be careful, because you don't know where that virus is going. So do bear in that mind. You may even, you may be so desperate to see family members, but you could spread it to somebody who dies. My message to people is really take care with COVID, and please be aware that although you might have it and you might only be passing it to friends who you think are fit, a lot of it comes down to genetics, not age. And it's not about how fit you are now, because this bug will take it all from you. So, and of course, you've got to bear in mind that they might pass it on to somebody as well. And I know of one person who died. He was very, very fit. He was an ex-Gurkha soldier, wonderful guy. He caught COVID, and then within a few weeks he died. So, this disease doesn't discriminate between sex, age, race. It really can hit anybody. Just be careful and be cautious, please.